admitted Donald Trump's huge win and they're not happy about it. In fact, the analysts from all corners of the world they're now predicting that Donald Trump's train is coming. That's right, guys. The Trump train is coming with support from the former president reaching heights that we just haven't seen in a long time. And this is despite the fact that multiple prosecutors have painted him in the absolute worst light, guys. In fact, the president in the White House himself has said that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. We've heard President Biden say this, but despite these setbacks, President Biden is still trailing Trump in the polls. It's really, really interesting to watch, which now brings me to the case that's being dealt with by the Supreme Court. Now, you guys may actually remember it, but they're talking about Donald Trump's presidential immunity during his term as president, one that may have actually given him the freedom of speech to question the results of the presidential election. Now, before I really go ahead and crack this nut wide open, take a second, guys, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. Totally appreciate you guys. Quick shout out and thank you to all you guys coming into the live already. Drew Down 87, Justin Gonzalez, Carol McCarthy, what's going on? Nana's Crochet Corner. Awesome, guys. Awesome. Keep coming in. Hit the like button. Special Counsel Jack Smith has done his very best to keep this case against Donald Trump going forward, despite the many setbacks that he's been facing. And today, Jack Smith is facing another blow. And this could possibly put the nail in the casket here, guys. But yeah, it looks like MSN's actually admitting defeat here. Many people believe that Jack Smith is only doing this to cause as much damage to the former president right before November. What do y'all think, though? Like, is this really a coordinated effort just to take down Donald Trump for illegitimate purposes, only to interrupt the 2024 presidential elections? Let me know, guys. But this is very similar to what Attorney General Letitia James wants. It's the same thing that District Attorney Fani Willis wants. They want these cases to go by as fast as possible. And we've seen this. We've seen the pressure that these DEI agents have been putting on folks to make things happen faster, right? They want Donald Trump guilty and they want to interfere with the 2024 presidential elections. Now, the problem is that not everybody's on the same page. Analysts are now blaming the Supreme Court. Would you believe this? They're now blaming the Supreme Court. It's unbelievable. But yeah, they're blaming the Supreme Court regarding their speed at which they're going after Donald Trump and that they're processing this case. But yeah, and believe it or not, MSNBC was one of the first channels to report this, which was actually surprising. But take a listen to what they're saying here.
Am I being too simplistic? What would the debate be happening inside the Supreme Court about presidential immunity? And these delays are conscious, are they not?
They're certainly conscious, Mika, on behalf of at least some of the justices, particularly given their decision to schedule briefing in the way that they did. Before the break, John and I were talking about this schedule, and I was saying the delay itself is the win. Even if we see a decision, let's say tomorrow or Friday, that is a full victory for Jack Smith and his team, the damage will have largely been done. It's not clear whether the case can be tried in the time remaining before the election or whether Judge Tanya Chutkan has the will to impose a trial on that schedule. You'll hear people complain bitterly, for example, that the Department of Justice policy forbids taking certain steps, certain number of days before election, whether 60 to 90 days. Read very clearly, that policy is about overt investigative steps like subpoenas or search warrants. It's not about a trial. But nonetheless, even if the Supreme Court were to hand Jack Smith a full victory, it's not clear that trial can be accomplished or if there is the will to make it happen.
Wow, guys. Wow. I mean, this is so surprising just to hear MSNBC actually come out and say this. Like, they're admitting defeat, which typically is a pretty left-leaning news station. Typically, they share the dirt on Trump. Basically anything negative about Trump, anything positive about Biden. But I don't know. I've been seeing more and more of a mix from MSNBC. Quick shout out and thank you to Alan Tripp AZ. I enjoy your channel. Hey man, really appreciate that. Fed Up Patriot, what's good, man? What is going on? A lot of folks calling lawfare in the comments. Guadalupe Rubino, where does anybody know where Catalia is? I don't think I saw her in the chat. Anyway, so they're saying here that the delay in and of itself is a win. So, and with some justices within the Supreme Court, well, they're saying some justices within the Supreme Court are actually to blame, but I don't know if you agree. Do you think that the Supreme Court justices are to blame here for the delay in the Supreme Court moving forward with this, or is it really just that this is that complex of a case that it takes time? Some folks are pointing the finger at Clarence Thomas, as well as other people. But what do y'all think? Now, while they're correct in their thinking that the delay is in fact a win for Trump, it's kind of wrong, if you ask me, to blame the Supreme Court for the delays. I mean, let's start with Attorney General Merrick Garland. So he's been questioned about his appointment to Jack Smith. And in this particular case, excuse me, he has been questioned repeatedly about his appointment of Jack Smith to this case. And for good reason. He says Jack Smith was the best person to place as the special counsel due to him being impartial and independent. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to argue with that, right? But the other thing is that a lot of people are arguing about whether or not Jack Smith is even qualified to even hold this role, which would effectively invalidate the entire trial altogether. But although Merrick Garland, he waited until late 2022 to appoint Jack Smith, which a lot of analysts are kind of raising their eyebrows about this because, this was right around the same time that Donald Trump declared that he would run for the 2024 presidential election. So do you think that this was just a coincidence? A lot of folks are like, man, come on, this is complete bull. Look at the timing. Trump says he's going to run for re-election, and then all of a sudden Jack Smith gets appointed into this position. Come on, guys. I don't believe in coincidences because there's a lot of speculation regarding that decision. And if you remember what was said just a second ago, oh, Matt, you know what? I wish I had this video ready to share with you guys. Matt Gaetz going in on Merrick Garland, questioning him about that. Oh, my God. Amazing. Amazing interrogation there. Anyway, but if you guys remember what was said just a second ago in the report from MSNBC, they're saying that this is a conscious effort by the Supreme Court to delay legal proceedings against Trump. Now, Lawrence Tribe, a constitutional law professor emeritus at Harvard University, blasted them and said that they're dragging their feet. Now, again, this is feeding into the narrative that Donald Trump has to be charged before the November election. See, they're not trying to get justice for the sake of justice. They're trying to interfere with the election. Otherwise, the speed of the case being processed wouldn't really matter, would it? Now, it's also their way of kind of spinning this story that the Supreme Court is working to get Trump back in office. I don't know about that. But what is clear is that they're trying to paint Trump as sort of like a dictator here. And the argument is that Trump, as president, had the right to criticize the elections. Now, this is pretty much connected to the First Amendment, which deals with the freedom of speech. Now, most of us have heard of that. Now, this is not about him being able to do whatever he wants while president get away with it. So they're trying to exaggerate that a little bit. And I think that's all that is. But Tribe argues that there were so many deals or rather delays to this immunity appeal. But he also says that the Supreme Court should have taken the case back in December last year when Jack Smith asked for it to be heard. Now, instead, the Supreme Court only decided to take Trump's immunity appeal in late February this year. But like I said a second ago, they're trying to pin all of the blame on the Supreme Court when they were not the only ones who were responsible for the delays. Political science professor at College of Charleston, Claire Wooford, said, there are lots of people who you could hold accountable or responsible for how long this process is taking. Even the FBI was at fault here because they didn't even take up the investigations into the January 6th situation for over a year. So she kind of added that if you want something to be reasonable and rational and thoughtful and ordered, it doesn't happen quickly, because we got to realize that this is a very big deal. This is a very big case, and the ultimate decision of this case is going to affect all of the people that have held and will hold office, who will hold the position as commander in chief here in our country going forward. So it's a big deal. It's a big decision that they have to make. And I don't really think that they should be rushing this thing at all. I know what their goal is, but they some of these folks, they're just not that smart. But they have to think about the long-term consequences of their deceit, if you know what I'm saying. But as we all know, these critics, they're just angry because they don't want Trump to be in the White House. They need to just come out of the woodwork and admit it. All right. You caught me red-handed. That was the only reason. But yeah, they don't want Trump in the White House. They repeated time and time again that the goal is to get ahead of the presidential elections. They haven't even tried to hide that fact either. And it's also the reason as to why that particular analyst admitted on national TV that Jack Smith is done. He and Merrick Garland have already lost. Even if they're given the win, there's not a lot that they can celebrate. I mean, the goal was to get Trump before the elections, and that's clearly probably not going to happen now. And it's apparent that these people from MSNBC, they know that Trump's probably winning it all. So it's really interesting to watch this panel release this information. It's almost like it's been leaked, but it is what it is. And they clearly said it because, I mean, you can see and you can hear how disappointed that they are about what's happening with these cases. So the reality is that the Supreme Court isn't delaying this case because they want to. They're taking their time because they have to, which has a lot of legal analysts saying that Democrats, the left, the woke mob, they're looking at everybody who isn't critical to Donald Trump to be an enemy. Or at the very least, they see these individuals to be working against their end goal. And this kind of brings me to a point that, some experts have said about Donald Trump and how he's being targeted politically. So is it worth it to throw away all of the rules of our own Constitution to get one guy? Does that make sense? I don't think so. Now, the idea is that there are those who are willing to bend and even break the rules just as long, the rules of law, just as long as they can get what they want at the end. Of course, they may end up burning themselves at the stakes by doing that. But obviously, we'll see how all this pans out for sure. But this kind of reminds me of a previous video that I did that you guys definitely need to check out right after this one. It's about Judge Christina Peterson, who's now facing charges of battery in Atlanta, could possibly sit in front of Judge Ural Glanville, which is the same judge overseeing the YSL Young Thug trial, for which Fani Willis's office has brought the charges forward. You had Brian Steele, one of the attorneys representing YSL or Young Thug, who Judge Glanville tried to arrest for not revealing the source of how he found out about this ex parte communications. Anyway, this judge, she got a little wild. So this judge apparently got into a fight. I don't want to spoil the whole thing. Got into a fight, ended up getting arrested outside this club. And I want to say it was Fulton County. Anyway, if you guys want to check that one out, I'll leave a link to that video in the description down below. Quick shout out and thank you to my good friends in the comments here. Jacob Bartlett, appreciate the Big 10. The Democrats are suing Trump for what Clinton had in his possession, top secret and or presidential records, and Clinton was found not guilty. Interesting. Very interesting. Appreciate you, Jacob Bartlett. Fed Up Patriot, my man. Fed Up Patriot says, first of all, thank you for the Big 10. Fed Up Patriot says, can't thank you enough, brother, for bringing all that you do to the proverbial table. Yes, sir. We are here. We're bringing it daily on a daily basis. Appreciate you, Fed Up Patriot. Oh, man. Much love to Jackie Klein for the big 20 twin. Joe's still MIA. Will he be at the debate? The whole legal system has gone rogue. Scary. Oh man. I don't know. Joe is a big wild card. Joe has been, Joe has like the weakest stats in front of the camera in terms of conferences, in terms of broadcasts compared to previous presidents. Joe Biden has literally. I won't even say. A part of me wants to blame Joe Biden for not being in front of the camera more, but I don't even think it's him. I don't even think he's in charge. I think you guys probably know who's in charge. I mean, some people might say, "Oh, Obama's in charge," or George Soros is in charge, or all these other different powerful individuals are behind the scenes controlling the puppet that we see as Joe Biden, who holds the presidential seat right now. But I don't even know if it's Joe Biden who's keeping himself from being in front of the camera, but I think it's actually the people who are behind him. They're like, look, dude, we're just trying to get another 4 years out of you. Don't screw this up. The less you're in front of the camera, the more likely that they can try to get another 4 years out of him. But I don't know. I don't know. It's, like Fed Up Patriot said, it's a clown show for show. So, but anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Check out that previous video with a judge getting arrested. I'll leave a link for you guys in the description down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Happy Sunday.